This administration, having failed apparently to energize us all to strike Iraq because of the looming threat of a nuclear weapon there, Iran, now says that they're killing our troops. I think they are. I think they are. But the drums are beating to do something about that.
Do we want Syria and Iran to become nuclear powers? If we do, it will be chaos in the region for years to come, and the whole region will go nuclear. To my colleagues on Capitol Hill, do we really want to sit on the sidelines and let Iran go nuclear? Are you looking really closely at the evidence about the Iranian nuclear desires? We live in a very perilous time. It is now time for the international community to act responsibly against rogue states like Syria and Iran, rather than giving them a pass.
You said the other day that you would take immediate action against Iran if it meant the security of the United States was at stake. And you went on to say that such a position, in your words, was closer to reality than current discussions might indicate. What did you mean by that?
I meant that there are many experts, as is well known, believe that Iran is within about 2 years of reaching a tipping point.
I think if they are, some people surmise that they are, they're several years in the future. And I think we can best deter that by diplomatic relations with them and consultations with them, and stop threatening that we're going to attack them so they won't think that they have to respond with all kinds of devices.
If we didn't take action before that time, then we would be placing, then Iran would be on the path that is, that would lead them to the acquisition of nuclear weapons.
Let me just interrupt. Senator, does it bother you that our intelligence has been wrong so much of the time in recent years in that part of the world? How can we really know what's going on in Iran? How could we be certain that they're close to a tipping point or within 2 years?
Bob, I can understand why it's difficult to obtain intelligence out of North Korea. It's a totally closed society. Why we haven't been able to get a lot more out of Iran eludes me. We all know that the biggest fault line in American intelligence is not our technological capabilities. It's human intelligence. It's still our greatest failing. And human intelligence is the only thing that can tell you an enemy's intentions. And that's why we've got a long, long way to go.
There is a push within the Congress by Armenian groups to have a genocide resolution passed. I'm not worried about World War I and the problems with World War I. I'm worried about what I think is World War III, a war against extremists.
We're developing this obsessive, delusional narrative about this being part of World War III or even World War IV, of the U.S. fighting against jihad and Islam at large. This is going to continue isolating us in the world and will plunge us into an escalating war, which is the real danger that we face.
The only thing I now think that stands in the way of success is Iran. And I'm worried General Petraeus is clearly alarmed by the degree of Iranian support, training, weapons providing to the extreme Shia militias, to the extreme elements, the special elements of Jaish al-Mahdi. I hope the administration is willing to do what it takes to back Iran off.
I hope we could come together stronger in Congress to push back against Iran.
We have not succeeded in getting them to apparently to slow down the flow of advanced arms or the training of Iraqis in Iran, which is doing real damage to U.S. forces.
Well, look, we're at the same time saying to the Iranians, regime change. We're supporting Iranian refugee or exile movements that are trying to destabilize Iran. We are protecting an Iranian Mujahideen force in northeast Iraq, which occasionally engages in strikes into Iran. In those circumstances, are you really surprised at what the Iranians are doing? Beyond that, there is a larger problem, namely, Iran is there. Iran is going to be there. We cannot have exclusive influence in Iraq and simply try to keep Iran somehow or other isolated or even undermined. That is not a solution for stability in the region.
I think what Bill Kristol is saying is he wants some action against Iran in the way that Israel apparently took action against Syria. And I think what you're looking at then is the next world war. If we now say the U.S. is going to take action against Iran and it's not as a result of some specific provocative action, then you're talking about spreading war.
The Senate passed a resolution the other day, co-sponsored by Senator Lieberman and Senator Kyl, saying this: it is the sense of the Senate that the United States should designate Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps as a foreign terrorist organization.
This resolution doesn't authorize the president to go to war against Iran, but they can use it in that direction.
An earlier version of that, which I read, said that this also involved direct military action against Iran. So in effect, that vote was giving the administration the imprimatur of Congress to go to war against Iran.
There's never been a declaration by a Congress before in our history, before the Senate acted, that declared a piece of a country's army to be a terrorist organization.
Are you going to bring that resolution up, the Kyl-Lieberman resolution, in the House?
No.
Why not?
Well, I'm not going to bring it up. It could be brought up, but I'm not bringing it up. It's a sense of the Congress. As I say, this has never, what is the point? This has never happened before, that a Congress should determine that one piece of somebody's military is that. And if it is a problem to us, to our troops, a threat to our troops in Iraq, and they are in Iraq, we should deal with them in Iraq.
What would happen, Mara, in your judgment, politically, if the administration took action against Iran inside Iran?
I think it would depend on what kind of action. I mean,
so it's a bombing raid on a training camp.
A bombing raid on a training camp, I think it could withstand that. I don't think that that the there would be some calls that this is war and you needed congressional approval. There would certainly be that.
We don't believe that any authorities that the president has would give him the ability to go in without an act of Congress. Any president, if we are attacked, if our country is attacked, has, even under the War Powers Act, very strong powers to go after that country. But short of that, he must come to the Congress.
But I think that if it was limited, if it wasn't kind of an all-out war with Iran.
So you don't think all hell would break loose?
No.
If America even has a single airstrike into Iran, it will cause a firestorm among Democrats. It will cause a crisis, and it might jeopardize the relative support the war is enjoying now at home with the success of the Syrian.
Relative support? What support does the war have in the United States?
No one is stopping it. That's what's happening.
That's what's happening.
You mean cutting off funding?
No one in Congress is impeding this strategy at all.
What do you think? Okay.
No, I think Charles makes the most sophisticated argument for not going after the Iranian training camps or the Iranian weapons manufacturing facilities is that it might endanger the bipartisan relative support for the surge right now.